we open up the airport with electrical work that still needs to be done?
Only if it's done at night. The electrical work will be, the majority of it will be confined to the runway safety area and the runway object-free areas. And when there's people and equipment inside the runway safety areas and runway object-free areas, the runway must be closed.
And that area is what determined that we could not use the taxiway as an alternative because of the ratio of safety area.
When you look at the price of the alternatives, I mean, we could abate the commercial tenants 100%, and that's a drop in the bucket. The T-hanger one, I hate to make it too complicated. Because I just offer them pretty good percentage off. I could all tell you that, no, I haven't used my plane for 10 years, but I was going to do it.
This was the year. Yeah.
But to the point of the decision of what to do, I mean, I think the 90 days is the only thing that gives us enough surety to start working on that. But I also think that contractor could come up with ways to get the runway open sooner if it was in their interest.
Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second with my comments.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nick?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Thank you for your direction.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I think,
Can I say, Mr. Chairman, if we need a phone meeting or a virtual meeting or something to work on these abatements ahead of time, I have no problem with that.
sure. Okay, I think we want to move up the EPA Multnomah staff report. Is that?
Yes, please. We didn't finish the old. Oh, we haven't finished old business yet. Sorry.
Excuse me.
For sure. I'm excited there.
Excuse me.
I'll make this one easy though. The Lignetics update is we don't have an update this month. We wait for better weather. I'm talking with a consultant, and we'll be talking to PEQ in January about if there's any testing possibilities that they might be able to help us with. But nothing else. We have the consultant engaged. We've got Steve Nelson with Lignetics engaged on the possibilities of testing. So stay tuned.
Thank you. And Marina, planning committee update.
Yes. Good morning, commissioners. How are you?
Well, and you?
Great. Thank you. I wanted to recap for you the last Marina Planning Committee meeting that took place on November 24th. And as a reminder, that recording is available online if you're interested in watching it. We focused on three primary areas: the operating expenses, the current maintenance and capital improvement needs, and for further discussion around dredging. Before the meeting, we sent out the floating home letters. I think I shared that with you, and to share with the floating homeowners that we were discussing potentially eliminating them. And one of our floating home tenants, Al Murray, attended the November 24th meeting and shared in public comment his personal connection to his floating home, his love of it, and requested clear communication, timelines, and assistance should he need help finding resources if relocation is necessary. And after public comment, we moved into the operating expenses, including staff costs. So Glenn gave a great presentation, and if you watch that online, you can see the details he broke down there, which I'm sure you're privy to. And he went over the operational budget, including the $550,000 annual loss, and what goes into that, including that staff breakdown. He shared he modeled out some forward-looking scenarios aimed at reducing operating expenses, and we're discussing that internally. The committee talked about the limited revenue capacity and the aging infrastructure challenges that we face. And we reviewed potential staffing adjustments, cost shifts, operational efficiencies, and talked about tracking that labor more closely just to have a better understanding of what we could do there, and also slip vacancy data. Following that discussion, we heard from Miriam House. She provided an update overview of maintenance and capital improvement needs that we are looking at. Engineering estimates place the total cost of the full gamut of infrastructure, capital improvements, and maintenance at approximately 4.5 million. But the scaled down near-term estimate is around 1.5 for essential repairs, and that includes the main walkway, the gangway, and the associated piers required. And it is important to note that repairs to the walkway, I don't know if you've been down, you've probably been down there lately. The walkway itself, we are getting to a point where it is, we consider it an essential repairs, and it has to be done at once, the walkway, the gangway, and the piers themselves. I encourage you guys to watch their presentations. They did a great job. And then when we moved on to the dredging discussion, the committee reiterated and shared the constraints and cost prohibitions with the committee. I did, and the fact that the channel itself is not within our domain or purvey to dredge at this time. Jen Massey presented a conceptual 10-year countywide operational levy that would include, Paul Langner suggested that we could potentially include Rainier and Klatskanai, the boat ramps, as an incentive there I can go over that at another time or share some of her plan with you. But that was one idea she presented to fund dredging infrastructure. But also we communally recognize that further analysis and public engagement would be necessary for something like that. And then Dave Sass shared his thought. He talked to the sheriff's office and the Marine Patrol Deputy Doug Wheeler. And they shared that they rely on the marina for operational access. Elizabeth Milliger and I also met with the Marine Patrol Deputy Doug Wheeler in person, had a great discussion with him. He has a relationship with DSL and OSMB, and jointly we are continuing to reach out with them and explore avenues for support and funding if there's anything there. The next committee meeting is scheduled for late January, and we will return with some data points that the committee requested, feedback, and follow-up items in that meeting. I found this meeting to be a step in the right direction. I think the data that our internal team shared with the committee was really helpful and led to healthy discussions. It's not imminent, but it is. I think the walkway, the gangway, and the piers, that expense is something that we do need to address. And it's an internal discussion. It's become a discussion on the committee, and then I'm sure the advisory committee as well. So I just wanted to share that with you. Do you have any questions for me?
Good job.
No, it was a great meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks, you guys.
If I could interject, commissioners, one of the things that we're considering now is OSMB Cycle 2 grant, which has a 25% match. And knowing what we know about our costs at the marina, we're trying to make a difficult recommendation to offer up to chase $200,000 to $400,000 with a 25% match. Leveraging that, like we talked about, it is more money into the marina, but it is some critical things that we need to work on. So that walkway is, you've walked on it. It's getting a little squishy, getting squishier, I'm sure, over time. The challenge there, as you know, is we weren't able to dredge, and where that new gangway is going to land is going to be sitting in the mud sometimes, and we'll just have to figure out how we deal with that and not being able to dredge and how that looks, have it engineered. So there's some challenges there with just trying to do some of the basic stuff to keep access to folks that are there, including kayaks and the private forage folks. So we'll try to come up with the best ask, what we think is, we're talking with Guy about what he thinks for funds availability, and then we'll have a recommendation for what we should do there. Stay tuned on that.
Progressing along. Yes, and we'll keep you posted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
When was that picture taken?
That's a good question. 2 days. I'm not sure what year, but it's very interesting because you You can see the old Multnomah plywood building and just how big it was. In the background, you can see the Armstrong plant. I'm not sure what it was called at that time, but it's obviously operational. On the right side, Open Talbot is full of, look to be plywood and other wood products. Off to the right of Pope and Talbot, you can see a structure in the water. I don't know if that's the table, but at one point there was a Navy landing craft vessel berth there, so I don't know if that's what it is. I couldn't tell when I zoomed in. And then, of course, Boise in the background is operational as well. So it was a pretty interesting picture.
Wow, shows you how much industry we have lost.
That was my reaction. Exactly.
The Armstrong plant should date it pretty well. I mean, that's not that old.
Nothing else blue. Since 80 anyway.
So good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
This morning, I would like to brief you on some developments involving DEQ and Multnomah Industrial Park, which involves EPA doing a preliminary environmental assessment of the site. We are joined online by Brandon Perkins of EPA and Katie Dougherty of DEQ, who are available to help me answer your questions and address any concerns. Next slide. Multnomah Plywood owned the property from 1957 to 1993, during which time they operated a plywood mill. Before that, the site was owned by Crown Zellerbach, which also operated a plywood facility on the property. Multnomah Plywood filed the Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization plan in 1991. That plan was not successful, and they ceased operation in 1993. In 1995, the port purchased the property. So, as is the case with Pope and Talbot, the port is faced with cleaning up a site that was polluted by others before the port owned it. Next slide. Here you can see a depiction of the test results of soil samples collected from various locations around the site in 1992. DEQ has periodically visited the site since 1983. And over time, concerns were raised about all three environmental treatment ponds on the property as they contained visible residual blues and diesel fuel. The ponds were subsequently filled in. However, you can see where they were located on this slide, up on the upper right, indicated with the red lines. Early on, DEQ was focused on and tested for hydrocarbons within the diesel oil grease ranges. I've circled the locations of the highest concentration. The three highest were on the top left near the former locations of above ground storage tanks, on the right side along the riverbank adjacent to where the dock is, and further down the shoreline where the pole yard is now. At that time, there were some other above ground storage tanks. Next slide. This slide shows dioxin levels found on the neighboring Armstrong site, which lies between our Pope and Talbot property on the right and MIP on the left. The black line between the sites is not actual property line. It gives you a rough idea of the border between MIP and Armstrong. Dioxins are toxic chemicals that take a long time to break down once they are in the environment, and they can accumulate in animals, particularly in their fatty tissue, and can cause numerous health problems such as cancer, reproductive and developmental problems, damage to the immune system, as well as other issues. Initially, during the 80s and 90s, DEQ focus at this site was on hydrocarbons. Focus may now be on dioxins and other chemicals. On the lower left, near the former location of Pond 3, you can see that high dioxin level on the Armstrong site close to the MIP property. Next slide. Last summer, DEQ approached the port to ask whether we would allow EPA to conduct a preliminary assessment of the Multnomah plywood site using one of EPA's contractors. We were told there would be no charge to the port and that allowing EPA to do this work would not result in the site shifting from DEQ to EPA control. The preliminary assessment involves gathering soil and sediment samples around the site using simple hand tools such as trowels and hand augers. Their focus will be on areas where hazardous substances may have been used, stored, or migrated to. The goal is to evaluate the site and identify contaminants that may pose a threat to human health or the environment. To understand the value of EPA doing the preliminary assessment, the port asked geoengineers to prepare a corresponding scope of work. Geoengineers' proposal was just under $100,000. While the port has concerns about giving up control of the preliminary assessment, we also understand that even an assessment conducted by the port would be shaped by DEQ. And we find that given the port's financial constraints, it is not easy to turn away DEQ's offer. To be clear, it is unlikely that the assessment will result in the site receiving a clean bill of health, but it will be a first step towards understanding the possible contaminants at this site. Next slide. Provided the Port Commission doesn't object, the next step will be for the port to execute an access agreement with EPA. Once that is in place, EPA will create a scope of work for the assessment. We have shared the scope that was created by geoengineers with EPA, but EPA would create its own. Once that is in place, the samples would be collected next summer, and we would hope to know the results by the end of next year. Next slide. Questions?
Yeah.
Robert, you have deja vu?
Yeah.
That's your expression.
Did we do any due diligence before we bought any?
No, it's a different world, I suppose.
Well, and it was in that the insurance companies didn't have pollution exclusions. So when did those come about? My bigger question, I guess, would be, we use the lack of pollution exclusions in the old insurance policies at
1987.
so we've used that quite a bit at the other site. Is it per incident, or is there a possibility of using those same insurance companies, or are we maxed?
We did not on this site, those policies were in effect. But you do raise an interesting point, and this is going to be a challenge, and we've already met with one firm. This is where it's going to be critical that we do some forensic insurance research, because there's no doubt Multnomah Plywood would have had policies, and Crown Zellerbach would have likely had policies as well that would have been in the period where the pollution was not excluded. So that's a process that we've only just started.
Neither of them exist anymore.
Right. We may still be able to access their insurance. That's a may be able to. The first thing is we're going to have to identify them
Elliot has already begun that forensic investigation
in a small.
in our own files here in the office, so.
When you're looking in those old files, and if you can find the original meeting where we decided to buy this property, I'd love to know the comments that were made.
Yeah, I did look for I don't recall there being much on that, but I'll take a look. The policies I identified were the bankruptcy filings from Multnomah Plywood, and they're probably policies that were dated when there was an exclusion. So we're going to have to go back further than the documents that were than the policies identified in the bankruptcy filing.
We've not been particularly impressed with the minutes from historical meetings. It's very short, sweet, and not a lot of context for future generations, which is unfortunate. We're trying to improve that.
And we are. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was a cooperative in essence, wasn't it? I mean, it was owned by the.
Yeah, like an ESOP.
Also, plywood mills were, I think.
So obviously, the recommendation from staff is that we do this, correct? And so you're obviously seeing that the downside is not as heavy as the upside.
You know, it's tough to say, but it's not like we could really steer it without influence from DEQ and
Exactly.
regardless. So that kind of made the choice for me.
The biggest question in my mind is, by turning it over to DEQ, are we just leaving ourselves open for more delays?
Katie, do you want to address that?
Um, Hi. I guess I'm trying to understand the context that you mean for delays.
Well, in the 20-plus year history we've had of working on this project, we keep getting up to the goal line and then keep getting set back after some new discovery is made. That is my biggest question. And
Sure.
You're comparing it to the Pope and Talbot site is what?
Yeah, no, I hear you and I understand that context. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was not making assumptions, but um, so unfortunately, that is kind of the nature of environmental investigation is in cleanup is it's an iterative process. So we do this investigation and then it tells us something we didn't know, and then we have to go and look into that. My hope is that the Multnomah plywood is not on the scale of Pulp and Talbot, but until we have data, we just don't know. And we don't know how long it will take to figure it out. So I understand and hear your concern, but I can't give you any reassurance because we simply don't know what is there and how much it would take us to actually um, investigate it and then, if necessary, clean it up. Because part of it is also like finding the money, right? Because the port has constraints around finances. So it's like we have this opportunity with EPA, but if they turn up the need for additional investigation, then part of the process that slows it down is we have to find additional funding to do the work. So I guess I don't have reassurance to give you just because of the nature of the process.
I think that realism
Did
is
I answer
actually,
your question?
yes, I mean, I understand the complexity of what's involved here.
Yeah. You've been living through it for 20 years.
Right, right. So thank you.
And I'll add just in my limited view of this, working with Katie, she's definitely pushes things forward in a positive way. We do have funding constraints. A lot of money is getting, even from DEQ's orphan site, as we're about to talk about, is getting directed towards Pope and Talbot.
Commissioner Sorber has his hand raised.
Yeah, question. When did the initial investigation start, Elliot? Just because I was unaware of the Multnomah site on the dig to when did that all transpire there?
You're talking about on the MIP preliminary investigation?
Yes, correct. Yes.
It would, talking to EPA, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but the hope would be that by next summer, they'd be in a position to do the sampling and have the results hopefully by the end of the year.
I think his question was, when did we become aware of it to get started?
Yeah, correct.
This started in the 80s, where they would periodically visit the site, and they started to do 80s, 90s. Some sampling was done at that time, but the focus, and feel free to jump in, Katie, but the focus initially was on the heavier polluted sites on Scappoose Bay, such as Pope and Talbot, Armstrong, and Boise. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Elliot.
Katie, did you want to add anything?
So I would just want to add that the more recent focus was triggered a few years ago by a letter from the Yakima tribe to EPA expressing concern about Scappoose Bay. And so there's been pressure to work on Multnomah plywood, but I didn't want to divert the port's focus and resources off of Pope and Talbot until we got through the record of decision and then started figuring out how we could fund it. So that was kind of the trigger for the more recent focus and need to actually get data.
Brandon, thank you for joining us today. I don't know if you had anything to add before you head off.
Hi, good morning, everyone. No, I don't have anything to add, but available, Justin and I are available for any follow-up questions that may come forward in the future.
Okay. Thank you for your time today, Brendan. And Katie, if you could stand by, we've got a little more for you.
Don't envy my grandkids having to deal with this.
Amongst many other things. The next. So the next item is Resolution 2025-31. That resolution, if approved, will authorize the executive director to execute an intergovernmental agreement with DEQ to start the first phase of cleanup of the Pope and Talbot site. Katie Dougherty, who we all know is online still to help answer any questions or concerns you have for this site.
Moving
Oh, sorry, I went
downstream a little bit.
Next slide, please. This slide shows the Pope and Talbot site in the late 1920s. You may recall Pope and Talbot operated a wood treatment facility on this property from 1912 to 1960. That operation ceased before the port purchased the property in 1963. However, by virtue of Pope and Talbot's 2007 bankruptcy, the port as the property owner left as the responsible party for the cleanup. Next slide, please. And there it goes. The purpose of this IGA is to define the port and DEQ's respective roles through the first phase of the Pope and Talbot cleanup. Under the terms of the agreement, DEQ will oversee its implementation. Project will be funded by the port's insurance with Liberty Mutual. This is not the same insurance policy that we settled last year with Great American for $2.5 million. Those funds are excluded from this agreement. I want to highlight that the port's financial responsibility for this phase of the cleanup will be limited to the insurance reimbursements. Any costs not covered by the port's insurance will be paid by DEQ working site account, which will have about $2.5 million available over the next few years. The advantage of this arrangement is that the port will limit its financial exposure to cleanup costs while not having to divert its resources to manage the first phase of the cleanup. This will allow us to maintain our focus on the port's economic mission while still addressing this issue. The trade-off is that the port will have little control of the project design and implementation. However, the specific project itself will be mutually agreed. Next slide. Between December and January, DEQ's contractor will identify technical studies that will be required to finalize the project's design, and they will update the cost estimates included in the feasibility study, as those are now several years old. Once that work is done, DEQ and the port will consider the contractor's report and decide on the project. Over the spring and summer, the contractor will carry out their technical investigations, after which they will conduct the remedial design during the fall and winter of 2026, with actual construction to follow. For these reasons, port staff recommends approval of Resolution 2025-31. Next slide. Do you have any questions?
Commissioners? Move approval of resolution 2025-31.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nick and Brian both?
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
You're not quite done with me yet. You got the, next on there? On November 17th, Port staff met with PGE and Global for our annual operations and maintenance meeting. This meeting provides an opportunity for the users of the Port's rail, water intake, and water discharge systems to discuss their facilities, operations, plan infrastructure operation. There's nothing to put up.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you know. Plan infrastructure operation and maintenance needs, discuss capital improvements, and set budgets. On December 5th, we had the second of our newly started semi-annual business review meetings with PGE. During those meetings, PGE described ongoing projects that Sean felt would be of interest to the commission and asked that I give you a recap of what was discussed. Amongst those was the news that PGE is selling their majority interest in the Kelso Beaver pipeline to Northwest Pipeline LLC. The Williams Company owns Northwest Pipeline LLC. Williams is a major U.S. pipeline operator that you may have heard of before. The KB pipeline connects PGE's Port Westward plants and U.S. Gypsum in Rainier to the greater Williams pipeline system. After the sale, Williams Company will add a compressor station in Washington, making the pipeline bidirectional and increasing its operational flexibility. After the sale closes, PGE will continue to have access to gas from the pipeline. At Port Westward, PGE continues a significant facility upgrade to improve the efficiency of its power generation. These improvements involve investments of $200 million at Beaver and $35 million at Port Westward. When completed, the upgrades are expected to improve generating efficiency by 6 to 8%, reduce carbon emissions, and reduce plant startup times, which will allow PGE to respond more quickly to power demand.
Real quick, 6 to 8, not 68.
Right.
You think it would be like a major improvement, but apparently those incremental changes are helpful.
It's a lot of money for an incremental change.
As a result of this work, Beaver will no longer be able to use diesel fuel to generate electricity. You put up the first slide, please. So next summer, PGE will demolish its fuel tanks and the product pipeline that runs from the Beaver tank farm to the dock. As you can see here, the purple going up to the upper left towards the river, that brings you towards Beaver Dock. And then as you can see, it winds around to the tank farm. Next slide, Krista. PGE will take advantage of having demo crews on site and will also take down the old water tower by the site's bumpy road entrance. The water tower is no longer used and is being removed before it becomes a hazard. I was also surprised to learn that PGE has its own dredging project. PGE's water intake facility at Port Westward supplies water to all 3 of PGE's plants and requires periodic dredging, which they plan to do next year. It's not of a big scale. I think they would use like a vacuum truck. And then finally, PGE monitors and maintains the Port's Port Westward water discharge facility from its Beaver plant. PGE is relocating these functions from its Beaver plant to Port Westward plant. That makes sense since their Port Westward plant and not Beaver actually uses the system. So what this will entail is they're going to be, right now they use wireless signals between our pump house and their control room at Beaver. They're going to hardwire that connected into the Port Westward control rooms. And from there, in the future, they'll do maintenance and monitor the water quality, temperature, and that kind of thing. So those are the highlights that came up in those meetings. I don't know if you have any other questions.
Thank you.
They're committed.
They are.
Wow, yeah, huge.
Thank you for this.
Thank you. Okay, I think next on the agenda are 2026 meeting dates. Is that?
We're gonna go back to resolution 2025-30.
And I know we have Krista scheduled, but does anybody have any questions on that? That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I would move approval of resolution 2025-30.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Good job, Kristen. Good job, Kristen. She's ready to present everything.
Turn down a win.
Okay. The next item is the meeting dates for 2026.
Hey, you see them there in front of you, commissioners. Any questions or comments on the dates as scheduled?
No.
We believe we like to have a motion on the approval of the calendar.
Move to approve.
Oh, there is one change. The November meeting is on Veterans Day. The 11th of November is the second Wednesday. Did I get that right? Which is a national holiday, and we're closed. So did you want to move that back a week, which would make it November 18th, which would work well with kind of Thanksgiving and everything that month?
Sounds good. And we can always adjust it if we need to.
I'll just chime in and say third Wednesday is always an issue for me, and I would not be able to attend.
Oh,
First Wednesday.
first Wednesday.
I would also echo what Brian said. It's also an issue for me. So the first Wednesday would be great.
There we go.
November 4. Going once.
Do we have consensus? I don't think we need a motion for this. Do we?
No, we got it.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering, in the interest of time, if we can put off the committee and organizing assignments and have a further discussion on that.
Whatever your pleasure is, Commissioner. Yes.
For that.
I'd like to talk to Brian about a couple of things.
Okay.
And we haven't had a chance to connect.
Just put it on the January.
Is that okay?
Yeah, mine's me.
I like it. Yeah.
Works for me. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Okay, executive director report.
Morning again, commissioners. Hope you got the report, the department reports last Friday, and my executive director report. See the calendar there. We've got some closures coming up with the holiday falling on a weird time. Office will be closed on Christmas. There will be some skeleton crew here the day after. New Year's Day, I believe, is the same. Wash, rinse, repeat. Holidays Thursday. We'll have some folks in here on the 2nd. Upcoming events, I want to let you know City County Dinner will be February 5th in Clascani. It's also when the early birds start for the SDAO annual conference, which will be in Seaside. The Thursday stuff is typically administrative sessions for folks. And then 6th, the weekend, as you know, SDAO goes over the weekend, 6 through 8 in Seaside. So let us know, let Krista know. We can get you registered, get you set up with a room. Rooms are going fast. Typically, agencies book more than they need at the start. We've kind of been slow on the take on that, but plenty of places to stay right around where the convention center is. So want to let you know the website's being updated right now. I think as we speak, Lindsay's done a good job of continuing some work that Gina had started. We will be ADA compliant when this is completed. That was something we had an assessment done and a requirement that we had to fulfill. And so there's still some, Ralph, one of our biggest fans, has found some issue, couldn't find the agenda. So apologize for that, Ralph. We'll make sure we get everything populated correctly. Wanted to let you know Samantha Scott happens to be Brittany's sister, started with as board employee here this in the last couple of weeks. Welcomed her at the front desk there, doing some really good work, working with all the departments and answering the phones, and just really good addition to the team for sure. Other than that, I just want to say happy holidays. I hope you all have a good one. And
Sean, is that airport presentation that we saw this morning available on the website, or could it be? I haven't looked.
oh, for sure. It's some of the slides are in the packet. I think you can get the whole program.
Yeah, absolutely.
I imagine there's a lot of interest and it'd be good for them.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, so commissioner report? Should we start? Let's start with those online. Nick?
Yeah, well, a lot of big decisions ahead of us here with another EPA DEQ round of fun, it looks like. So looking forward to sorting through that. And that's kind of all I had, other than I'm sorry I couldn't make it today. I've been out ill here, but happy holidays to everyone. So
Thanks for keeping it to yourself.
Yeah.
yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Nick. Brian?
No update for me.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Yep, it's holiday time. I'll take a pass on update and we'll see how things shake out in the new year.
Okay.
Are a lot of challenges ahead.
One thing I have is I attended the operational meeting of PGE, and there's just a lot of moving parts. PGE is a enigma in itself. So
It is.
we will be discussing a lot further here in a few minutes. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
And I attended most of the Marina Planning Committee meeting, and I thought it was very well done and very interesting. So, as always, thank you. Okay, so at this point, I think we will go to executive session.
Yes. Would you like me to read the script?
Oh,
Yes,
can't
please.
wait.
Okay. Columbia County will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660, Section 2F. Consider exempt public records, including written legal advice from Port General Counsel, which is privileged and exempt from disclosure. Representatives of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the discussions in this or any executive session. The Port Commission will return to open session after the executive session, and we do not expect any decisions to be made as a result of the executive session. Any persons excluded from executive session are welcome to return to open session when it is resumed. Thank you. I think we're back in the open session now. Is that where we are? Is that okay?
Okay with me. I mean, does that make sense?
No, but too late now. No, that doesn't make sense to me.
More to come on that one.
Well, we can work, each of us with you, right? Because whatever comes to us, we can modify, but it would be nice if it was as close to consensus as we can get. And maybe that's two resolutions, so maybe we take what we agree on and then divvy up the rest of it for something further.
Because we just don't know at this point. All that's left is the adjourning.
Okay. We are adjourned.
Wow.